Tuesday mornings had become routine, almost mechanical. I followed the same sequence without much thought, brewed my coffee, skimmed through emails, and took a quick glance at the headlines. Ever since the divorce, my life had settled into this repetitive loop. Some might have called it tranquility, but to me, it was just getting by. That particular morning, however, as I sifted through my inbox, one subject line brought everything to a standstill. You deserve to know the truth. Initially, I dismissed it as just another scam, one of those clickbait emails designed to lure you in. But something about this one felt different. It didn't use my name, which made it less personal, yet the timing, exactly 6 months post-divorce, seemed oddly intentional. Against every bit of logic, I opened it. The message was short and to the point. Hi. This might come as a surprise, but you need to hear this. Jenna wasn't truthful with you. You need to see what's in the attached folder. Reading her name was like reopening an old wound. Jenna, my wife for a decade, had shattered everything. She'd been unfaithful, dishonest, and left me utterly broken. When I confronted her back then, she didn't even attempt to deny it. Instead, she gave me a chilling smirk and said something that haunted me for months. You'll never find another woman like me. At the time, I thought I was lucky not to. But now, as I sat staring at this mysterious message, someone was clearly dragging the past back into the light. I hovered over the attachment, torn. How much worse could it get than what I already knew? Still, my curiosity overpowered my hesitation, and I downloaded the folder. What I uncovered made my blood run cold. There were countless screenshots, photos, chat logs, and even a video. All of it pointed to a far deeper level of betrayal than I had ever imagined. The messages weren't just between Jenna and the man I caught her with. There were multiple names. The conversation spanned years and exposed how she had mocked me, shared her lies, and laughed at my trust. One message, in particular, stuck with me. He has no clue. He genuinely thinks I love him. It's almost laughably easy. My heart sank. This wasn't just about being cheated on. I had become a running joke in her twisted life. My hands shook as I continued scrolling. Then I opened the video. The footage was poor quality, clearly taken on a phone, but its content was unmistakable. Jenna sat in a hotel room beside a man I didn't recognize, laughing without a care. But it wasn't just the laughter. It was what she said. Once the divorce is finalized, he'll be out of the house, and I'll get the rest. I froze. The rest? What else was she after? At the end of the email, one final sentence appeared. If you want the full story, contact me. I have more. I leaned back in my chair, overwhelmed. Who was this person? Why reveal this now? Their motivations weren't clear, but none of that mattered in the moment. Jenna had already caused enough damage. I couldn't let her get away with even more. After pacing for what felt like hours, I returned to my desk and typed out a reply. Tell me everything. What I didn't realize then was how that single message would pull me into a whirlwind of revelations that would completely reshape my understanding of my marriage and myself. The next message arrived quickly, less than an hour later. This time, the tone had shifted. It was colder, more controlled, and held a quiet sense of satisfaction. Eric, I assumed you'd want the truth, but I didn't expect such a prompt reply. Let's cut to the chase. Jenna's actions weren't impulsive, and this wasn't just an affair. It was calculated. The files attached will clarify everything. A lump formed in my throat as I opened the folder. It was significantly larger than the first, broken down into dated subfolders, some reaching back as far as 8 years. That was nearly half of our entire marriage. I clicked the first folder. It was filled with financial records, bank statements, receipts, wire transfers. At first, I couldn't piece together what I was seeing. But then, the pattern emerged. Large withdrawals from our joint account had been redirected to an unfamiliar account. These transactions aligned with the time Jenna convinced me we needed to scale down our lifestyle. She had claimed it was about securing our future, but in truth, she had been siphoning money away for something or someone else. Moving to the next folder, I braced myself. These were emails. Not the flirty kind I'd expected, but something much worse. Detailed conversations between Jenna and what I assumed was her partner in this scheme. They talked about hiding financial movements and fabricating reasons for certain expenses to avoid raising my suspicion. One message hit like a punch to the gut. Once he's out of the way, everything will be ours. Just wait. The weight of betrayal sank in fully. Jenna hadn't just been unfaithful. She had orchestrated an entire plan to destroy me financially and emotionally. All the while, she had looked me in the eye and pretended everything was fine. I kept scrolling, the dread deepening with each new file, each new revelation. Something made me freeze in my tracks. A photograph. In it, Jenna sat at a table across from an unfamiliar man, both grinning with drinks in hand. But what sent a chill through me was the torn piece of paper laid out between them. It was our marriage certificate, ripped clean down the middle. Attached to the email was a brief message from the sender. This is from 2 years ago. She marked your anniversary by plotting your downfall. My head reeled. Who was this person? How did they know so much? And more importantly, why were they sending this to me? Each discovery only brought more confusion. And then, at the very bottom of the email, one more message stood out. If you want answers, I'll explain everything. But it has to happen my way. Jenna is dangerous, Eric. You have no idea. Dangerous? Jenna? The same woman who once wept when a vase shattered on the kitchen floor? It felt impossible, but after everything I'd uncovered, I couldn't dismiss the possibility. It was like I had been dropped into the plot of a high-stakes thriller, except this wasn't a story. This was my reality. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I spent the entire day combing through the files, trying to unravel the chaos that had suddenly become my life. The deeper I went, the more disturbing the picture became. Jenna's betrayal seemed to stretch far beyond our marriage. There were financial transactions I couldn't explain, links to shady organizations, and strategies that didn't just aim to ruin me. They posed real threats to my safety. By nightfall, my decision was made. Whoever had sent the message, I had to meet them. If Jenna was capable of orchestrating all this, what else was hidden beneath the surface? My hands trembled as I typed a response. I'll meet you. Tell me where and when. The reply came back almost immediately. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. The cafe on Main Street. Come alone. Tell no one. The following day, I walked into the cafe, my heart pounding in my chest. I had no clue what to expect, who this mysterious person was, or what new revelations were waiting for me. As I pushed the door open, my eyes darted around the small, quiet space tucked away from the busy city. In the corner, a man waved. He looked average, mid-30s, neatly groomed, with brown hair and a clean face. But there was something in his eyes, a sharp intensity, a wariness that spoke volumes. You're Eric, he said as I approached. Wasn't sure you'd actually show. And who exactly are you? I asked, keeping my voice steady despite the nervous knot in my stomach. My name doesn't matter, he replied, motioning for me to sit. What matters is that I know what Jen has really been up to, and who she's been working with. I wanted the truth, but his cryptic tone made me want to shake it out of him. Just tell me what's going on. He slid a folder across the table. Look through this. Expecting more of the same messages, photos, I opened it and froze. These weren't texts or emails. They were legal documents. Property records. Jenna owned 3 different properties, all purchased within the past 5 years, and all in her name. And the money? It had been quietly drained from our shared accounts. The man explained she's been building herself a way out. A whole new life. Without you. A lump formed in my throat. Why are you telling me this? What's your angle? He leaned in slightly. Because I used to work for her. I blinked. What? She hired me as a private investigator. But not for what you'd think. She wanted leverage, something she could use if you ever pushed back. My heart dropped. Jenna had been preparing for this for years. Even hiring someone to dig up dirt on me. So why turn against her now? I whispered. He paused, then said, because she did the same to me. Used me, then tried to destroy me too. She doesn't care who she hurts, as long as she wins. Before I could say another word, he pulled out one more photo and slid it across the table. This one chilled me to my core. Jenna stood beside a man I'd never seen before. He looked older, powerful, exuding control. The investigator's voice dropped. That's the man you need to worry about. He's not just someone she's seeing. He's her partner. And he's dangerous. My eyes stayed fixed on the picture, trying to understand the full scope of what I was seeing. Jenna wasn't just cheating, she was entangled in something far more sinister. What does he want? I asked, dreading the answer. Everything, the man said flatly. And if you don't act now, he'll get it all. I left the cafe gripping that folder like my life depended on it, my thoughts in overdrive. The revelation of Jenna's involvement with this stranger was a betrayal I hadn't been prepared for. Who was he? Why was he involved with Jenna? I needed answers fast. That night, sleep escaped me. The image of Jenna beside that man haunted every thought. The cold resolve in his eyes lingered in my mind. He wasn't just a fling. He was a threat, and the danger he posed was real. The next morning, I picked up the phone, called the investigator, and said with determination, I need everything you have on this man. Who is he? What does he want? The private investigator didn't waste a second. He told me the man's name was Victor Morales, a seasoned fixer, someone elite clients turned to when their problems needed to vanish quietly. If Jenna had aligned herself with someone like him, this wasn't just about betrayal anymore. She wasn't simply being unfaithful, she was safeguarding her future. Victor was known for making obstacles disappear, whether that meant handling financial issues, troublesome people, or even rewriting entire lives. The realization landed hard, like being slammed by a speeding train. Jenna hadn't only decided to leave me, she was making sure I wouldn't have the strength to fight back. With Victor backing her, I was completely outmatched. I felt overwhelmed. My voice trembled as I asked the investigator what I was supposed to do next. Start by using your head, he advised. Do not go after them directly. Victor plays rough, and if he sees you as a threat, he won't hesitate to strike. Your best bet is to collect proof, build your case slowly, and find a way to bring them down without putting yourself in harm's way. So that's what I did. I buried myself in the documents the investigator had compiled, analyzing each piece and trying to stitch together the larger picture. The deeper I went, the more disturbing the story became. Victor wasn't just offering legal advice, he was masterminding the entire operation. Every financial maneuver, every obscure legal tactic, it all traced back to him. Then I stumbled upon something truly disturbing. One of the properties Jenna had bought was registered in Victor's name. This wasn't a mere investment. It was a fallback, a refuge, ready for them if things turned volatile. That moment flipped a switch inside me. Jenna wasn't just draining me financially, she was working to erase me entirely from the narrative of her life. By the end of the week, I realized I couldn't delay any longer. I needed to confront her, but I had to be strategic. One misstep and everything could unravel, or worse, I could get hurt. I picked up the phone, forcing my voice to stay composed as I called her. Jenna, we need to talk. Can you stop by the house? Her tone was brisk, almost dismissive. What for? The divorce is finalized. There's nothing left to say. I let out a forced laugh. Just a few loose ends to tie up. I promise, it'll be worth your time. There was a pause, then a weary sigh. Fine. Tomorrow. Make it quick. After I hung up, my stomach was in knots. I didn't know how the meeting would unfold, but I knew it was my only shot to uncover the truth and maybe, in the process, take back a piece of the life she had stolen from me. The next day, I waited inside the house that once echoed with laughter and love. Now, it felt hollow, haunted by the memory of what we used to be. I paced the living room, going over what I planned to say. My heart wasn't pounding from fear, it was fury, barely kept in check. At exactly 2 o'clock, I heard her car pull into the driveway. Moments later, the front door opened, and Jenna entered. She stood tall, arms crossed, her expression chilly and impatient. Well, Eric, she said flatly, what is this all about? I don't have time for games. I inhaled deeply, keeping my emotions in check. We need to talk about Victor. For the briefest moment, her face twitched. That small, involuntary reaction told me everything. I had caught her off guard. I don't know what you mean, she said, her voice steady, but with an edge of defensiveness. Don't insult me, Jenna, I replied, my voice rising. I know everything, the properties, the hidden accounts, the schemes you've been crafting with him all this time. I've seen the emails. I've seen the pictures. You've been using me, stringing me along like some pawn, and I've had enough. For the first time, her icy demeanor wavered. She stepped in closer, lowering her voice. You never should have looked into this, Eric. You really don't know what kind of fire you're playing with. Is that a threat? I asked, taking a cautious step back. Because I'm not afraid of you anymore. It's not me you should be afraid of, she replied coldly. Victor doesn't take it lightly when people interfere in his business. Her words sent a chill through me, but I refused to show it. So, it's true, I said slowly. You've been conspiring with him to ruin me, to take everything I have. She didn't deny it. Instead, she gave a twisted smile, the same one that had haunted me since the day I discovered her betrayal. You were just a step along the way, Eric. A safety net. You made things easy, that's all. Her words stung like a slap, but I stood firm. So what's the plan now? You two vanish to one of those hideaways while I'm left with nothing? She tilted her head slightly, amused by my anger. Something like that. But don't worry, Eric. You're a survivor. You'll figure something out. You always do. My fist clenched, every part of me aching to retaliate, but I kept my focus. Not this time, I said through gritted teeth. You've misjudged me. You think it's over, but you don't know what I've got. Her smirk faded slightly. What are you talking about? I didn't answer her question. Instead, I walked calmly over to the desk in the corner and picked up a thick folder. Holding it up, I said, "This is everything. Every account. Every property. Every dirty little secret you've been hiding. All of this was heading straight to the authorities." For a fleeting second, her eyes widened in shock, but then quickly hardened into a sharp glare. "You wouldn't dare." "Try me," I replied, my tone calm and unwavering. "I've already arranged for someone to release everything if anything happens to me. Neither you nor Victor can shut me up, no matter what you do." For the first time, real fear flickered across Jenna's face. "You're playing a dangerous game, Eric," she warned. "Maybe I am," I answered. "But you are too." Once she stormed out, an eerie stillness took over the house. I sat at the kitchen table, staring down at the folder that had become my lifeline. Everything was in place. If Jenna or Victor made any move, the evidence would be delivered straight to the authorities. Still, I knew better than to assume they'd give up without a fight. The first threat came that very night. Close to midnight, my phone buzzed with a call from an unfamiliar number. I picked up anyway. A deep, composed voice filled my ear. "You've made a serious mistake, Eric," the man said. I didn't need him to say his name. I already knew. "Victor," I said, tightening my grip on the phone. "I was expecting you'd reach out eventually." "You've been busy," he continued, ignoring my comment, "digging into matters that aren't yours to meddle with." "Not mine," I snapped. "You've been plotting to take everything I've spent my life building. Of course it concerns me." There was a long silence, then a low, chilling laugh that crept under my skin. "You really don't get it, do you? This isn't a battle you can win." "I've got all the proof," I countered, trying to keep my voice firm despite the fear creeping in. "If anything happens to me, it all goes public. You and Jenna lose everything." His voice turned icy. "You think some paperwork makes you safe? Eric, people like me don't play by your rules. Keep pushing, and you'll lose more than just money." The line cut off before I could say anything else. My heart pounded as I stared at the phone, knowing without a doubt that the warning was very real. But I wasn't backing down. The next morning, a black SUV appeared parked across the street. It had no markings and didn't belong to any of my neighbors. I could feel unseen eyes on me every time I passed by a window. Victor was sending a clear message. He was watching me closely. Later that afternoon, the private investigator called. "Eric, we've got a situation," he said. "Let me guess," I replied, my voice thick with sarcasm. "Victor." "Exactly. He's already making moves. I've been monitoring his financial activity. He's setting things in motion to take you out. Lawyers, phony accusations. He wants to crush you." "What am I supposed to do?" I asked, anxiety gripping me tighter. "We need to act before he does. I've got media contacts ready. If we leak the information, we can force his hand and Jenna's before they try anything else." It was a dangerous gamble. Going public might protect me, but it could also provoke Victor into stepping things up. Still, it was better than sitting and waiting. "Let's do it," I agreed. Set up the meeting. That evening, while getting everything ready for the handoff, I noticed something strange. My laptop was lagging. When I opened my email, I realized half of my sent messages were missing, including the one with the damning files I'd sent to the investigator. My heart sank. Victor had managed to hack into my system. Panic shot through me as I stared at the empty folder. He wasn't just watching, he was systematically breaking down every line of defense I had. No matter what move I made, he seemed 2 steps ahead. I called the investigator at once. "They've hacked me," I said, my voice shaking. "The files, they're gone. Everything I sent you is gone." "Stay calm," he said, though I could hear the strain in his voice. "I've still got physical copies of everything, but this changes things." He's moving faster than I thought. "So what's next?" I asked, gripping the phone like a lifeline. "We keep going. Meet me tonight at the usual location. Bring whatever you still have. We'll make sure this story gets out before he can bury it." I spent the rest of the day watching my surroundings like a hawk, half expecting that black SUV to barrel into my driveway. By the time I left for the meeting, my nerves were shot. The drive to the cafe dragged on endlessly, every glance at my rearview mirror feeding my paranoia. When I finally arrived, the investigator was already inside, sitting in a corner with his laptop. He gave a subtle wave as I walked in, and I rushed over to him. "Good," he said as I handed over the last of the documents. "This should be enough to cause some serious damage." But before we could even begin, the door to the cafe opened, and in walked Jenna. My stomach sank. Her eyes scanned the room until they landed on us. Then she headed straight to our table. "What are you doing here?" I asked sharply, rising to my feet. Jenna offered that same smug smile I'd grown to despise. "Oh, Eric," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "Did you really believe you could play this game and walk away unscathed?" "You won't stop me," I told her, my voice quiet but firm. Leaning in, she whispered with a mocking tone, "You're in way over your head." Victor was already a step ahead. He knew about the meeting, and he was aware of the man beside me. My eyes shifted toward the private investigator, who suddenly looked tense. I asked him what she meant, confusion creeping into my voice. He avoided eye contact, his silence heavy. Jenna's voice cut in with mock sweetness, dripping with venom. "Did you really think he was doing this out of kindness? He's been working for Victor all along." I turned to the investigator again, dread building in my chest. The betrayal was written all over his face. "Is that true?" I asked in a low, strained voice. He finally met my gaze, looking remorseful. "It's not that simple, Eric," he replied. My anger surged. "Not simple? You've been feeding Victor everything." I snapped. "I didn't have a choice," he retorted. "Victor doesn't accept rejection, but I promise, I was also trying to protect you." Hearing that only deepened the hurt. I had trusted him, and now I felt completely exposed. Jenna, on the other hand, seemed to revel in the turmoil she had caused. Her voice turned icy. "You've lost, Eric. Just stop now before you dig yourself in deeper." But she didn't realize that I had changed. I wasn't the same man she had once manipulated with ease. Straightening my back, I locked eyes with her, determination burning within me. "You haven't won. This is far from over." I snatched the folder from the table and stormed out of the cafe, leaving both of them behind. Everything had fallen apart. My plan, my only ally, and Victor closing in, but I still had one final move left, something even Jenna had no idea existed. The ride back home passed in a daze, my thoughts spiraling as I tried to rebuild a plan from the wreckage. Though the PI's betrayal had left me vulnerable and Victor had me boxed in, I wasn't ready to quit. If anything, it pushed me harder to fight back. As soon as I walked through the door, I made a beeline for the closet and opened the safe. Inside was a small external hard drive, my hidden trump card. I had never told anyone about it, not even the investigator. It held everything: damning emails, financial documents, property transactions, and even data Victor had tried to wipe clean. This was my final shot. I plugged the drive into my laptop and began writing an email to a journalist I had worked with in the past. She had a reputation for being fearless, and I knew I could trust her. I attached every document, every file, along with a detailed account of Jenna and Victor's operations. If I was going down, I was taking them with me. Before hitting send, doubt crept in. Victor had proven he could infiltrate my life in ways I hadn't anticipated. What if the email was intercepted? Then I remembered an old trick: encryption. I locked the files with a password I would only share once I confirmed delivery. No sooner had I sent the message than my phone buzzed. A new text appeared from an unknown number. "We know what you're doing. Stop now, or you'll regret it." The words sent a chill down my spine, but I had no time to react. I grabbed a bag, packed what I needed, took the hard drive, and left. Staying in one place was no longer safe. If Victor was tracking me, I had to stay mobile. I drove out of the city and checked into a motel on the edge of town, paying in cash to avoid being traced. Inside, I turned off my phone and set up a secure connection to wait. Within an hour, my contact responded. "I got the files. This is huge. I'll need to verify a few things, but if it checks out, the story's going live." Relief hit me like a wave, but it didn't last. A sudden, loud knock at the door sent my heart racing. I peered through the curtain. Two stern men in suits were outside. Their presence made one thing clear: Victor had found me. I stepped away from the door, mind scrambling for options. The laptop and hard drive still sat on the table, holding everything that could bring him down. The knock turned into heavy pounding. "Eric, we know you're in there. Open up." My hands moved fast. I stuffed the drive into my bag and slipped the window open. Fortunately, the room was on the ground floor. I climbed out as quietly as possible, adrenaline pumping. The moment my feet touched the ground, I broke into a run. I didn't stop until I reached a gas station almost a mile away. I ducked behind the building, catching my breath and trying to come up with a next step. With my phone off, they couldn't trace me, at least for now. But I knew they wouldn't give up. An hour later, my burner phone rang. It was the journalist. "Eric, I've confirmed everything. The story's going live in the morning." Brace yourself for what comes next. I gave a small nod, even though she couldn't see it. My voice was soft as I replied, "Thank you. This is my last chance." That night, I stayed hidden, waiting for dawn. As soon as the story hit the media, the headlines were nothing short of explosive, filled with accusations of deception and betrayal. The scandal centered on a well-known businesswoman leading a double life alongside her perilous associate. Victor's name dominated the coverage, tied to every shady transaction he had ever made. Jenna's connection surfaced as well, and with it, her public image crumbled instantly. In just a few hours, my phone was flooded with messages. Jenna reached out, Victor did too, along with a handful of people we both knew. I chose not to respond to any of them. By nightfall, the news reported Victor's arrest. Authorities had begun digging into his financial dealings, and Jenna was now under scrutiny as part of the investigation. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, a wave of calm settled over me. It didn't feel like a full triumph, but it was enough for now.